I'm Rick Gilbert along with Alexander Central football coach Butch Carter. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about what was an incredible football season on campus at Alexander Central. Not only varsity, but you put JV in with it. The two teams went, both of them had 10 wins. Between them they had 2 losses. They captured a couple conference championships. What a great season of football at Alexander Central, Coach.
Thank you, Rick Gilbert. It was, and I've been coaching a long time, and when a season like that does come to an end, you want to look back and really understand and cherish the events that happen, because they don't happen that way often in this sport. To be a total combined record of 20-2 and an undefeated JV team, and had a great possibility to have an undefeated varsity team regular season. Some outstanding young men, great fan support, great parent support. Just excited for our community, our school, and you really want to look back and evaluate that and appreciate what these young men have been able to accomplish, and our coaching staff. And I tell you, when it goes like that, it flies by, and it really went by very quick.
Let's talk just a moment about the JVs, because their second straight undefeated season. They've won 23 games in a row. You know, at some schools they don't put a lot of emphasis on JV football. I'm awfully glad that we do here. And one of the reasons I think that we've been so successful the last several years in JV football is our teams are better prepared on Thursday night. I see it. We pay attention. You've got a number of coaches that really dedicate themselves to the JV players.
We do, Rick, and I'll be very honest with you. When I become a head coach 15, 16, 17 years ago, whatever it may be, that was one thing that I really want to make sure that we had a great attention to detail. Very fortunate for me moving over here to Alexander Central 2 years ago. A lot of those qualities were already put in place, and
they were.
We were able to build off of it, and we coach our JV the same way we coach our varsity. And you know, it's a saying I say all the time, and it's important, and WIN stands for what's important now. And we want to build our program through our JV program, and you can't replace experience. And we've actually moved juniors down before to get experience instead of standing and not playing. So our ultimate goal with our JV program is to learn how to win, learn how to practice, learn how to compete, and expect to win. Extremely proud of them, extremely of our coaching staff, proud of the guys worked extremely hard. And you know, Matt Wilson, our offensive coordinator, serves as our JV head coach, and I think he does a tremendous job with those guys, getting them prepared and ready to go as well. It makes you excited as a head coach to see that type of work. 2 years undefeated, and you know, and we've had some tight games, and they've learned how to win because I think they expect to win.
It was fun to watch them on Thursday night, and I know that, and I go back to what I said earlier, Coach, I watch some of these JV games, and I'm not sure we have that much more talent than the other JV teams, but our kids are prepared, and they're ready to play, and that's a compliment to the coaches, because our kids are ready to play on Thursday night just like they are on Friday.
They are, and we take pride in that. I think it's how you teach young players to become varsity players. And the faster they learn how to do that, the faster we're going to have, and they're going to have success, and we're going to have success as a program. The quicker they learn how to do that and learn how to compete. I think, you know, that's a big thing. And I'm going to go a step further, Rick. Our both middle school feeder programs were undefeated going into the Apple Bowl. So some exciting things for Alexander County and the football program here in Alexander County and here at Alexander Central High School. So it's an exciting time for us.
I waited a little bit purposely to do this, because when the season ended, you know, there was a sting there. Gosh, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't sleep that night that we lost that playoff game. And I know that nobody wanted the season to end the way it did. So let's talk a little bit about that last game, and then we'll get into reviewing the season. What happened, especially in that second half, that led us to coming up a little short in that game against Cuthbertson?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I kind of felt the same way you just explained at the end of that game. You know, how did that just happen? I'll be honest with you, going in at halftime, I felt like we were in good shape.
We're up 11 points.
Right,
Look good.
And having the ball coming back out in the second
Exactly.
half. We wasn't dominating the line of scrimmage, but they wasn't dominating us on the line of scrimmage. We had Gunnar Anderson, we had Bryson Godfrey, we had Devin Weiss. Defense was playing solid at that time, having some big stops and holding to a field goal attempt. Actually, 2 field goal attempts, and they botched the snap on the last one. So I was feeling pretty good, but yet, knowing, we got 2 quarters to play, we need to finish it. And we come back out in the opening drive, and we drive down the field, and, I really believe if we score there and go up 28 to 10, it definitely vows in our favor. And there's always going to be 4 to 6 to 8 plays during the game that are going to dictate the outcome of that game, unfortunately, sometimes. And I think 4 to 6 of those plays did not go our way with, what I thought was not a real good spot on 4th and 1 when they had to pull the chains out and measure and look for 20 seconds and put a piece of paper down. You probably need to tie to the runner and be a first down.
They looked and looked. I've never seen one. I thought they were going to have to go to the video to see if this is a first down.
And I wasn't real happy with the spot. I thought we got cheated on the spot just a little bit, but there was no question we were going to go for it there. We wanted a touchdown or points there. And then there's another circumstance later on there. We went for a fake punt. We worked on it all week. We had it set up beautifully, and one man makes a play. That could have changed the whole game around. I was pretty upset with myself during that time, kicking myself pretty hard. And we recovered from it and intercepted a pass on a 4th down play, and it was a double turnover. Unfortunately, I don't care if he was a senior or a sophomore. It's hard to tell a young man, especially a high school player, just to bat the ball down. They don't get that circumstance. We've got to do a little better job teaching that. But, intercepts the ball and get a double turnover, and they actually gain 18 yards off of it.
Yeah.
And then we, after all that and fighting through all that, we're tied, and we had a scoreboard problem. We don't know exactly what happened there with the scoreboard and how much
I'd forgotten about that.
So you could kind of feel it on the sidelines as a coach. It's kind of unraveled a little bit. We're going to be okay. It's a tie football game. We throw a screen pass to one of our great football players, Devin Weiss. He breaks free. They hustle down and get a blindside tackle on him. He doesn't see coming and knocks the ball loose.
I think the play went 37 yards.
Yeah, 37, 40 yards, somewhere in that neighborhood. And, we had the ball at their 20-yard line with under 2 minutes to play. And
to win
the game. So those things happen as football, and we've been very fortunate this year to overcome a lot of those adversities, and this one didn't bounce our way.
We're going to talk about the seniors in a moment, but since you mentioned Devin's fumble, and that's one of the reasons I couldn't sleep that night after the game, and I thought how unfair athletics can be. Here's Devin Weiss, one of the best running backs we've ever had at this school, and his last time he touches the ball, he fumbles. We've got Gunnar Anderson, one of the best quarterbacks this school has ever had, and the last pass he throws is an interception. There's nothing fair about that. No. Nothing fair about that.
And it happens in sports, and that's why, and a lot like what you said, I had to take a few days, and actually it's still lingering, but working on that mentally, and I want to focus on the good and the positive things we've been able to accomplish. Things like that happen, and it just wasn't meant to be. We've had it bounce our way quite a bit this year as well. But that's one great thing about football. It teaches you a lot about life. You're going to get knocked down. You got to be able to pull yourself back up and refocus. I never try to make a bad play call. It's like the fake punt, for example. I'll use it for an example. Worked on it all week, felt good about it. Thought we had them perfectly where we wanted them. Went ahead and pulled the trigger on it, and they stopped us. Well, I'm beating myself up. I'm mad. Well, don't intentionally try to make that happen. We tried to win. It's like a fumble or a turnover or anything else. You got to go to the next play. Much like a golfer, if you make a bogey, you can't continue to worry about that bogey. It'll turn into doubles and triples. And that's why I try to teach our players, let's move to the next play. there's nothing we can do about that last play but learn about it.
Right.
But it is unfortunate that you know that their high school career had to come with the ball not bouncing our way in that last fourth quarter, basically.
Obviously, the season didn't end the way we wanted it to, but what a terrific season, Coach. We opened the non-conference portion of our schedule, and maybe it wasn't what some people thought it would be. Some of those teams were maybe not what they normally are, but we go through it 4-0, and we get to the Watauga game, and we knew it was such a huge game.
Right.
And we go through that stretch. Well, let's go back to West Caldwell. We opened the conference season against West Caldwell. Then we've got Watauga and we got Freedom. We knew that was a tough stretch.
We did.
We go to West Caldwell. We take care of business. The Watauga game, we get a dramatic touchdown from Gunner to Kendall to win it, and this town goes crazy.
Right.
Crazy. Talk a little bit about how that game sort of got us strutting a little bit, quite frankly, in my opinion.
It did, and I think it really demonstrated the character of Gunner Anderson, Kendall Flowers, and how hard they've worked in the offseason, how hard our team has worked in the offseason to put herself in that position to win a game. And as far as that dramatic fashion.
On a checkoff. We
right,
talked about that during the season.
And that's what Gunner Anderson brings you. And Kendall, they'd played together for a long time. They knew what we needed to do, and that opportunity exposed itself, and they took advantage of it. And that's great training when those opportunities do show up, and you know you're trained well enough to get that part of the portion of it done. So I'll be honest with you, we'll go back to the West Caldwell game leading up to the Watauga game.
Mm-hmm.
I knew on film and on paper, I mean, this was a good West Caldwell team.
Sure.
And
especially on offense.
Yes, and playing there and being our first conference game, and I thought we handled that well and ended up with a nice victory, and then coming in and having Watauga at home, a well-coached football team. They run a great system, and a lot of respect for Coach Hoppick and Watauga, and they play hard, and we've built a nice rivalry with them and over the last couple of years, and had some close finishes both years, and lucky for us, we've been able to come out on top, and hope we can continue to do that. But I really believe that really was a springboard win for us. And then you turn around the next week and had to go to Freedom in Morganton, where we've not had a tremendous amount of luck in our history here.
House of horrors for us.
And I really felt like our team and our leadership and the senior leadership really stepped up, rolled their sleeves up, and punched the clock, said we're going to win this football game. And we were focused, and we were determined to win that game. And from there, really set us up for our conference championship.
We roll and we get to our arch rival from Hickory, and I know since you've been here and with them back on the schedule this year, you knew the importance of that game.
We did.
Other than just the standings, it's Hickory, and for people in this community, you know, it's a different game, and it's another one that it looks like we've got that game in the win column, and we just didn't play very well in the fourth quarter. And that's not us.
No, we didn't, and we actually had to fight back, and we were able to take the lead. And then we had a couple opportunities on offense in that fourth quarter to add a score and really separate ourselves, much like the conferencing game, and separate ourselves when we were not able to do so. And some things didn't go our way, and I look at that on paper as a 10-point win. We had to go for it late in the game. It's really a 3-point win when you look at it. So our two losses were total combined of 10 points, and could have won both football games. But that was a heartbreaking loss. But I really felt like we had to follow up the next week at South Caldwell with a win and secure an outright conference championship, which we wanted to do. My concern, I didn't want to linger around and kick ourselves in the tail too often thinking about that Hickory game. We had to move on. We had to learn from our mistakes and see if we could become a better football team. And I thought we responded really well moving into that conference championship game. But the Hickory loss was a tough loss, and I think we'll learn from it in our off season, and we'll definitely have that marked and circled about 4 or 5 different times on our calendar next year.
Sure.
But they're all important. But the way that happened and the way it kind of got away from us was a bitter feeling and bitter taste.
So we have ourselves a goal before the season to win a conference championship. We were picked by the coaches as the preseason favorite. We kind of liked that, or at least I did.
I do too as well.
I loved it, and the kids embraced it too, and I think they handled it well. So we do that. We win the conference championship. And let's go back a little further. When we did our preseason conversation, Coach, I said, I think that if we can cut points against by a touchdown, we got a chance of winning a lot of games.
Right,
we did.
right.
We cut it by 7 points a game this year. We did see improvement on the defensive side of the ball.
We did. And we got to continue doing that. If we're going to be a championship level football team, we have got to continue to become better and better and hang our hat on the defensive side of the ball. And we've got to become better and better in our special teams and kicking game and in all aspects of the games. Offensively, I think we were at a championship level pace last year as well. And then, you know, we've had some tremendous skilled kids that continue to carry us this year. We knew our offensive line play was going to be something that we would have to deal with, offensive and defensive line play, and we kind of grew up and got better as the year went along with that. But, you know, defensively, I felt like, you know, like when I talked about if we could improve there.
Yeah.
I still see a lot of improvement that we have to do there. We were actually playing a lot of young kids in our back end of our defense in the secondary and in some different spots. But we had some real bright moments on defense too with, you know, with Isaac Chapman being co-defensive player of the year in the conference and representing that side well. Had almost 24 tackles for loss this year and led the team in sacks. I thought we had Jordan Brown step up and move from safety to outside linebacker.
He's got a cult following now, you know. I mean, people love to see a little guy that doesn't look like your, you know, what you have in mind as a football player performing at a high level, and he's an inspiration to a lot of people.
He is, and that attitude becomes contagious.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you can take out some of the passing game that hurt us through some blown coverages and some things, and a lot of that's just youth, and a lot of it's not paying attention in practice and attention to detail that we got to continue getting better at. If you take it out, we probably do have a championship level defense, and we're going to show that and improve on that each and every year.
The offensive line, and you touched on it, we only had one returning member of that offensive line in Noah Green, a senior. And you made the decision in the preseason to put Caleb Dula on offense. Caleb makes all conference. I think he does a good job.
He does.
Steadily all year. I want to talk a little bit about Kyle Phillips, because here to me is the Alexander Central football program.
Right.
You made the decision last year that Kyle, as a junior, was going to stay on the JV team and improve. I don't know what it did to that young man, but he worked so hard in the offseason heading into his senior season, and you said it all year, he's been our best offensive lineman. That says a lot about that young man for him. He might have quit when you told him, we're going to put you on the JV team as a junior.
I'll be honest with you, Rick Gilbert. When we were evaluating last year, we had a good core offensive lineman in place, and actually, as you know, they were upperclassmen and graduating. Just didn't want to discard it. They were good players, and we wanted to build off of their knowledge and experience. Right. So we had a Kyle Phillips who was moving up, who was right in between of becoming a good lineman, and he needed to play football. And there's nothing worse having to sit all year and not being able to get the reps that he needs and playing experience that he needs. And I have done this before in the past and been able to move some guys down and to be able to come back up and really help our varsity team just by playing experience. And us installing a new offensive scheme and defensive scheme, he needed to verbally hear and learn. And so that was a much needed experience, and pretty much explained it to him in that way. And he embraced it, and he had a great off-season in the weight room. But we didn't really make that decision until, you know, we evaluated all of our scrimmage tape and up to the first game, probably after the first game, and we felt like that was something that would be very beneficial to him. And he becomes, you know, our offensive lineman of the year, all conference, and just has a tremendous year. And I definitely believe it saved his high school season, and I really appreciate him embracing that and trying to help build our program.
We're talking with Alexander Central football coach Butch Carter. We were sort of reviewing what was a terrific 2017 conference championship for the Cougars. 10 wins. Didn't end like we wanted to, but hey, I tell you something that not only did it improve, it went from being non-existent to actually being very consistent. Our kicking game was non-existent early in the season. We not only kicked the ball better on kickoffs, but we started hitting every extra point as the season went along.
We did, and I'll tell you, and we worked on it, and we were working on it all season. It just wasn't quite there, and we continued to work on it. And we started our season, our non-conference, actually going for a lot of twos because I didn't feel comfortable with it in practice yet.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with, you got snap, hold, you got protection, and then you got to have a kicker that can have confidence, step up there and kick it through as well. And Christian Romero was not able to be with us the first couple games of the year, and then once we got him eligible and ready to play and then in line, we were good to go there. And then added some other kicking elements as we went throughout the year. Lissandro and come in and started doing some stuff on the soccer team, and so we had some. We started taking some pride in it and doing better. And I'll be honest with you, we were practicing it on our JV team. We didn't use it as much. But one thing I told our staff, we've got to practice special teams at a high level on the JV team where they can graduate into the varsity program.
Right.
And we missed that somewhere in transition, not blaming her to anyone about that. It was something that I felt like needed to be addressed on the JV team. And I'll be honest with you, our punt team, JV-wise, we didn't have to use them much. We practiced them like we were going to have to use them a lot. Was probably as good as our varsity punt team. And our field goal extra point team. Snap wise, minus the kicker, and we had to move Jacob Teague down to kick.
Right.
I had no problem kicking extra points there as well. So we're starting to improve in those categories, and hopefully they'll kind of like you spoke about earlier, our JV team undefeated, growing, moving them up. So the same thing has to happen with special teams. So hopefully we'll start seeing improvements in that area.
I want to just reel off a few names here that some of the seniors: Gunnar Anderson, Bryson Godfrey, Devin Weiss, Kendall Flowers. Coach, that four, and we're going to talk about that four for a moment. Cougar legends, some of the best players the school's ever had. I mean, Gunnar, what a young man. I mean, we've learned to appreciate not only what he does on the field, but the intangibles that he brings. And I was so thrilled when he was named the Conference Player of the Year.
Absolutely. You can't replace a Gunnar Anderson. You don't even try to.
No.
So with the qualities that you just mentioned, you can't. And a very well-deserved honor of being Conference Player of the Year. And that's a great accomplishment by him. It's voted on by the other coaches that he competes against in the conference. And couldn't be more happy for a young man. You can't replace him, but the guys that you mentioned, it's hard to replace any of them. You don't even try. You just continue training the players behind them, and hopefully these young men that you read off will pass the torch down to them, and the young men coming up will grab the torch and run with it and become the best football players they can be.
Kendall Flowers never leaves the field. He's your lockdown corner. He's your wide receiver.
Right.
And I think even with that, he was underappreciated by a lot of people. He's just a special player.
He is. I'll tell you what, we talk about most improved and people that's improved. We knew the qualities that he had last year and the things he could do. But he has stepped his game up and really started doing some great stuff for us in the quick passing game. And then even in the long passing game, his deep passing game, where we were able to beat some people with some deep balls. And then, he never comes off the field. He started playing on some special teams on the return game.
Right.
Actually started fielding a couple punts toward the end of the year.
Yeah.
So a lot of improvements that we were able to make. And one thing I thought we done good as a coaching staff is getting the four young men that you mentioned and several others in the right positions to make plays when they should. And it's up to them to make them, and they were able to do so.
Bryson Godfrey, given the gift from the Almighty of blazing speed, but the one thing that really, among the many things, that he worked hard too. Not only, he didn't just exist on his talent, he worked hard.
He worked extremely hard and had a great off season. And he handled all the recruiting stuff in the off season beautifully. I tell you what, I mean, that can become a distraction.
Yeah.
and plus some other distractions. And I thought he handled himself well. And you know, that's nothing but going to help him as a young man in life as he continues to grow. You don't coach people like Bryson Godfrey, Gunnar Anderson, Devin Weiss, Kendall Flowers as far as a skill set often in your life. So we were proud of them, proud to have them, and we understood and tried to put them in as many situations to help us win games. And great group of young guys, and they'll be sorely missed.
And then Devin, we talked a little bit about him a moment ago, but you know, to me, he is just an incredible player that I will never ever forget. And long after the game was over, he and I had a hug, and he said, "I'm sorry." And he took that loss and that fumble so hard, and I just told him, I said, "Listen, you got nothing to apologize for. You're one of the best players we've ever had. I've never seen anybody that just refused to go down like him."
Refused to, wouldn't go down. Interesting stat, out of all the yardage he's gained here as a Alexander Central Cougar running back, he's only lost like 9 yards in his whole career.
It's amazing.
Combined.
And a lot of that is will.
Yes.
He refuses. It's incredible. So we talked about the guys that we lose now. The old man, I've got to put my glasses on to read these names. Tevin Clark, Isaac Chapman, Jordan Brown, Stephen Montgomery, Lyndon Strickland, Jaden Houston, A.J. Miller. That's some of the group that's coming back for next year, plus some talent coming up from the JV team.
Right.
Hey, Coach. Expectations. We're expecting big things.
Our expectations are high, and the names you just read off need to grab that torch that's being handed down and run with it. And they got to understand what it takes to get to the top, maintain that top level, and we're conference champions right now, and we got to roll the sleeves up a little extra tighter, and we got to go to work and continue the same attitude and effort that we put into and what we've established here as our foundation.
I know what you expect, and I think they know what you expect. Now, I knew this when you came here because I knew how you built the program at South Caldwell. You watched the kids get off the bus.
Right.
They were strong.
Right.
They worked in that weight room. It's already started now, hasn't it?
It has, you know, and we've already started back up a little bit. We're progressing into that and building levels. And when we hit this thing in the second semester, which will be full blast, that's where we do our training. That's where we install our discipline. That's where we work on all the details. Because if you wait till the season starts or even into the summer, you're behind.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got to hit this thing in the spring in our second semester, and we're excited about it. And, we've got some improvement to do with the young men that you read off. We've got to continue to install discipline and to be able to do things right, because when you're in tight games and close games, your character and your attitude and your effort are what wins you the close games. And the names you read off first, Gunnar Anderson, Kendall Flowers, Bryson Godfrey, Devin Weiss, great attitude, great effort, worked in that weight room, worked in obviously never missed anything.
That's
the torch that they have.
They have those guys, among others, have sort of shown them the way.
Right. And they've got to grab the torch. It's time to grab it, and they got to run with it.
Coach, thank you. Thank your coaching staff for a tremendous year of football. We won 20 games at Alexander Central this year. It's never happened before. We're expecting 20 again next year. You know that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Have a great off season. Go Cougars.